I was just listening to you on Talk is Jericho, and you mentioned Weasel Dooley, the originator of the star rating system. I was curious whatever happened to the Weasel. How come he never became another Dave Meltzer? Also, I noticed that most people in the business call you Jimmy or Corny, while the only person who really calls you Jim is the great Brian Last. Do you have a preference on what people call you?
No, second question first, then. No, well, some things I prefer they not call me, but those you can probably figure out. But it depends on who knew me, who met me when and where and at what period in my life as to what they end up calling me over a period of time. You know, Jimmy is all the way from the photographer days. Corny is especially from either our close Midnight Express periphery because Bobby and Stan started it, or then the WWF because JR took it wider and Bruce. You met me in Smoky Mountain, so I was just kind of in the middle there. It just depends on when somebody ran into me first. And as far as Weasel, he's around here somewhere. I talked to one guy that had talked to him on the phone, but he kind of, like a lot of us, not really fond of the wrestling business anymore, but he's a recluse. He's a hermit. We're going to roust him out one of these days.
He's probably one of the biggest dream guests for my show, the 605 People Podcast, because he's been talked about so much. And, you know, this letter actually hit on something. If anyone out there has any copies of Weasel's World, the newsletter, please get in touch. I'd love to see him. I've only seen a little bit of it.
Yes.
And the direct influence on Dave Meltzer is so apparent. It really is like, wow, I've heard Dave say that newsletter was a big influence on him starting the Observer. But when you see it, it's like, you know, there is something there. I don't know if he would have been the reporter Dave Meltzer was, but in terms of just the analysis, it's very similar.
And also, and I've talked about this before because, you know, I've moved a number of times in my life, but as anybody who's been to the castle can testify, I've kept a hold of most of my stuff over those years. But somehow, between the time that a lot of stuff left the house here in Kentucky back in the 80s and the time that it eventually landed all back here and et cetera and was unpacked, my Weasel's World newsletters are missing.
Oh,
and it's spooky. And I've asked a few people because all of the old pen pals of Weasel Dooley who actually had those, for some reason, nobody can find them now. They've got all their other shit, but they don't. It's like he and his work disappeared. So anybody out there in the sound of my voice that has the old Weasel's World newsletters, everybody wants to see them. Weasel, if you're listening, if you're lurking out there, we all would love to talk to you. He's the biggest goddamn celebrity in wrestling now. He's like the second Mama Cornette. All these people in my life get these huge reputations but are never seen publicly. And then people doubt whether they existed or not.
I hope he does, Papa. If you're listening, please check in. So many people want to talk to you because we want to hear what you have to say. And we all hate modern wrestling too.
I don't know if he realizes how well-known he would be at this point or how popular he might be.
If he has a computer, he's probably seen that he at least gets credited for the star system, you and him together. That may make him mad. He may be like, wait a minute, Cornette didn't do it. It was me. You ever think of that?
Well, I don't know because I mean, you know, he would certainly remember the phone call. I don't think Weasel is in the witness protection program because he's mad at me for stealing the credit for the rating system because I didn't want it. I didn't want the credit for that. I was ribbing at the time.
When did you lose touch with him?
Somewhere in the Smoky Mountain wrestling era, moving to Connecticut, and he stopped going to the matches here in Louisville. And I didn't talk to a lot of people for a few years there because I was insane. And then coming back to OVW, nobody had seen him for a while. And I didn't see him at any of the events, and he's gone away. One person I talked to to him recently. He's like, well, I don't know if I should give his phone number out. I'm like, you know, but anyway, if you're out there, Norman, we love you.